morning, good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to our MVNO community. We're connecting today to explore why now is the perfect moment for MVNOs to thrive in the US market. We'll dive into exciting opportunities driven by advanced tech, changing consumer needs, and new business models. Plus, we'll tackle key challenges in the region and discuss strategies to overcome them. So whether you are an established MVNO or considering entering the US market, this is the right place to gain the latest insights. You can check the latest event agenda in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Our team is putting a link in there for you right now. And while you're here, please feel free to join the conversation. You can drop questions for our speakers in the same Q&A box. My name is Eva Campbell. I am MVNO's co-founder, and I'll be your host for today. So let's get started. Up first, we have John Abraham, Principal Analyst at Appledore Research, who will take us through best practices for US MVNO architecture and systems strategy. John, very warm welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Eva. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. As Eva said, I'm John Abraham. I'm a principal analyst at Appledore Research, and I lead the digital enablement research program here at Appledore. As part of that program, I'm responsible for covering the specific types of software systems that telcos use, which, as most of you all know, is quite a different breed than a generic or even an internet-grade enterprise might actually use. And part of my research is actually to also focus on MVNOs and the type of systems that's relevant for them. And today, that's what I want to discuss, the essentials of what forms the MVNO software systems and what is the best practices to adopt, especially if you are in the early stages of planning to launch or in the process of launching a new MVNO. What are the sort of steps to consider and maybe some missteps to be wary of, to avoid. I am often asked about that particular question, and especially from those planning to launch new MVNOs and those who don't have much exposure into the telecom industry. And hopefully today's session will answer at least some of those questions. We don't have much time to go deep into the systems itself. Roughly 15 minutes or so is what I will take, but hopefully that will answer some of your questions. All right, let's get started by starting with a summary slide. And I thought this is probably a good way to give some context to what you can expect in this session. The first step is the fact that differentiation has moved to the top of the stack. Or another way of looking at it is that value creation has actually shifted from the networks to the software and services. Now, that might be a bit controversial depending on the audience, but the point I'm trying to make here is that, especially at the top layer, is where different experiences and innovative business models are created, and that's the crux of any modern MVNO. We are looking at a segment overall. If you look at the overall MVNO segment, the total amount of money that's being spent on systems to hold up MVNOs and also MVNEs is over $500 million on an annualized basis. That's an incredible amount of money. And as you can imagine, there is a lot of emphasis in trying to make one system unique and distinct from others. And this, the top layer, is where most of that happens. We'll get a little bit more into it a bit later. And the second point is about architectural agility. And this is often thrown about quite commonly these days, but I want to define architectural agility as a factor of, as an output of two key factors. One is time and the other is cost. Architectural agility fundamentally is the ability to do things that may be beyond the core purpose for which a system was designed. In other words, if you have designed the system to do a particular task, but then as business has evolved and you need to do other things, what does it cost you and how long does it take for you to actually adjust the system so that it can support the new business or application or whatever that is. And this is quite important, especially in an industry that has been known to define and design systems based on specific use cases. We are not used to designing systems that goes beyond a particular use case, especially the legacy telco industry that we are all familiar with. And this is going to be of essence, and again, a little bit more of that later. And finally, about telco expertise. It's not uncommon to actually find there are a lot of options out there that provide you similar types of solutions for a fraction of the cost. And these are not built for telco solutions. These are usually generic industry standard solutions. And the challenge with that is that a little while later, you will find it's quite difficult to make it to work according to your practices, and especially if you're embracing standards that are common in the telco industry. It can be quite a bit challenging, and especially if it gets down to having to customize it, to meet specific type of requirements, then that can be a big issue. Again, a bit more on that a bit later. Moving on to the next slide. So let me just lay the context here. I know you all know what this is about, but the four key players here and what actually drives their software strategy, right? The MNO, this is a mothership, as we all know, and they own and operate all the underlying infrastructure and the assets. The fundamental strategy of the software that they have is to support the core operations. And an MVNO or supporting an MVNO may or may not be core to them. In many instances, it is not. But as a fundamental building block, it is very unlikely that MVNOs or supporting an MVNO practice is core to the business that they have. It's often the direct customers they have. And again, it depends on region, it depends on the type of the operator, but that's the core. The MVNE, as we all know, it's all about leasing capacity, and then oftentimes it's an MVNO MNO rather that has a MVNE platform, and then use that to sell through to other prospective MVNOs. An MVNE and an MVNO are more or less the same, except that one of them is relying on a single operator, just leasing, and the other one just aggregates capacity from multiple operators. Now, what is distinct about them is that they exist fundamentally to sell through to someone else. They seldom serve the end customer. And so their systems and processes are fundamentally designed to enable that. And they have to serve multiple MVNOs, right? So their ambition is to try, and oftentimes it's not a one-to-one, it's one-to-many relationship. So to try and support as many MVNOs as possible at the lowest cost, most economically. And so that's what the core system is about. And at the same time, they should also have that bridge, a strong, robust bridge back to the mothership, so that the access and all that goes on smoothly. And that takes us to the MVNO itself. And this is the brand that the customer experiences. And fundamentally, at least in most cases, most of these are a software-driven business. All right, well, with that out of the way, let's now get into what are the core, or I would say the fundamental systems. Next slide, please. That I believe is essential for managing the end-to-end experience, rather. So I believe MVNOs are an experience-centered business by and large. And it's down to what sort of an experience. Even if you are an IoT-focused MVNO, it's down to the experience. Even if it is a B2B or a B2C, it's down to the experience, and it fundamentally comes down to four systems. Again, this is a topic of much debate, and maybe if we have time at the end, happy to take questions on this, or maybe at a separate time, feel free to reach out and we can have a conversation around this. But these are the four fundamental systems that can swing your experience. At the top is CRM. Now, CRM is a common phrase. Even those from outside of the telco industry, you will be very familiar with it. And it can have a very broad definition even within telco. I mean, it includes the obvious candidates like the channels and how you manage the customer and how you orchestrate the journey, the journey of the customer engaging with you as an MVNO. But it also goes beyond that into things like, say, lead management, opportunity management, quote management, and so on. So the CRM function itself can be quite a make quite a big impact, especially because it's the first point of touch, or it manages the first point of touch with the MVNO. It can also support with things like campaign management, and that can be quite useful, especially once you have onboarded a customer and as you try and retain and drive loyalty through your customer base. So it's quite a broad system there. The catalog again, quite a commonly heard phrase, but fundamentally most modern systems today are catalog driven. And what that means is that you essentially drive things off a centralized catalog. Now, most of the software systems usually have a catalog of its own. So what happens is there is a centralized catalog that is then used to drive business for most operators. And this is the same for most operators or even for MVNOs. Now, the reason why this is essential in managing that core experience is that this is where the order capture happens, which means this is where you actually are able to build what the customer can order. And especially if you have a broad portfolio, a B2C portfolio with partners and different types of bundles, you need absolute control over the catalog rather than being reliant on someone else to drive the catalog for you and to base it off that. Billing and charging, I guess that's obvious. This is probably where 60 to 70% of customer complaints happen. And there is a lot that goes on here. You obviously need to know what the charges are, how much the customer owes, or if he's owed something back. But beyond that, this is also where you have the ability to control pricing and promotions, and also at the other end of it, invoicing, and if it required dunning and so on. So quite a complex segment. And by the way, this is also one of the most legacy segments if it is something that you're leaning on someone else, like a host operator to support you with. In general, especially if it's an operator that has been around for a while, this happens to be a system that can have a lot of legacy in it, one of the most mature software systems in telco today. And finally, marketplace, and this is all about your ability or willingness to scale, because you need to have access to the mechanism that allows your partners to onboard, especially if you have a strategy that is out of sync with your host operator strategy, where you want to target specific types of segments, which requires a completely different breed of partnerships than the host operator can offer you. You need to have a marketplace that can help you have complete control over that, not to say about the settlements and so on. One other unmentioned point I'll just call out here is about the ability to observability, or the ability to actually see what's going on within the entire end-to-end flow. So overall, these at a high level, these are the fundamental systems that you actually need to have to manage the experience. Now, one of the points maybe I should have mentioned on the previous slide is that you actually, especially if you're a new MVNO starting out or planning to launch out, you've got different options for how you have access to software. You obviously can lease it off the host operator if your relationship is directly with an MNO. Or alternatively, if you have a relationship with an MVNO or an MVNA, they can also provide you with the necessary software chops. As I said, their fundamental business model is to have as many MVNOs functioning of their platform in the most economical way possible. So they would have the necessary systems to support you with that. But these four blocks are what you need, in my view, to differentiate or provide a differentiated experience, which I think is quite a fundamental building block, irrespective of which segment you are targeting. We'll just click on next. I have a couple more points to mention here, and that is about the delivery models again. You might be familiar. I have just put all of them there because for the sake of completeness, licensing is a very traditional model, not at all recommended for most MVNOs today. It usually involves a high upfront cost. Managed services by and of itself, again, not something that most would appeal to most MVNOs today. The SaaS model is essentially the core of what can be a practical option, especially for the ones who are starting out at a smaller limited scale. And there can be different types of hybrid models, which involves a bit of SaaS and some support, which is more like a hybrid managed services support. Commercial model wise, usually what we see, especially for SaaS, is that most of the options, and if you're looking at a small to mid-sized operation, you would not find or you would be able to negotiate around zero upfront costs sometimes, and the starting price you're looking at roughly around the 400,000-500,000 mark, for someone who's just starting up, and that can go all the way. And again, a lot of this is dependent on the again, different types of commercial models in play, a rev share with some fixed costs and so on. So you have a lot of control over how all of that works. By and large, a lot of the vendors that I have actually asked this question to, they are keen to support MVNOs who can show proof of funds, especially ones who have raised funds and are able to sustain operations for a medium term, at least, on the back of that. All right. So now let's go into the next slide there, which is how do you assess a vendor solution? And look, this by itself is probably a half-day conversation. There are about 35, 40 points we usually look at to assess, going in, and even within subsegments, you could probably go down like 15, 20 questions. But at a very high level, the three fundamental things that I often tell people is, one is about the need to be telco specific. As I said, going back a couple of slides, there are a lot of options which may not be either which are generic, which are not custom built for telco, like a generic CRM system, a generic billing system, and you think they are quite cheap, and they tend to be, by the way. And you think, all right, let me just bring them together and build something that I can scale. That doesn't quite work, especially over the medium term. And especially if your business gets some traction, you will find that this software is actually holding you back. And there are also a lot of concerns around the compliance. This is a highly regulated segment in most countries, and there is a lot of concerns about compliance and compliance with regulation, compliance with certain types of standards, which might be essential either because of the contracts you have and so on. So telco specific is absolutely essential, and oftentimes it's quite easy to figure out if the solution is telco specific or not. And part of this is also to be compliant with industry standards, be it standards protocols like TMF, OpenAPI, or a MEF standard, or whatever that is, right? Agility, I talked about it previously, but I'll just mention this, that to be SaaS is probably far more important for an MVNO than to be cloud native compliant. These are common buzzwords in the industry. And again, this may be a bit controversial for some, but I think to be SaaS is to be absolutely essential. Cloud native compliance, not so much for someone who's looking at a MVNO sort of operations. And again, it's important to be able to scale the solution both horizontally and vertically. Vertically, obviously, we know what that means. Horizontally is the ability to extend itself and include other capabilities adjacent to it, either through standardized interfaces or through pre-integrated extensions. And finally, Gen AI. Look, I didn't talk about Gen AI, but it's obvious that this is going to have a big impact in how on MVNOs as well. It's certainly going to have an impact, and is already beginning to have an impact on MNOs. Now, there are a lot more restrictions to where a Gen AI platform can be at play or can have an influence in the medium term for MVNOs particularly, but most of it actually has an influence on the customer experience, which is perhaps one of the top priorities. So that is going to be a key part of this. And portfolio breadth. So there is a point of view where some feel it is cheaper and more efficient to buy several small solutions cheaply and then have someone integrate it. And it might be cheaper, but every integration point is a potential failure point in the future, especially if there are multiple parties involved. The concern is that, as and when the systems evolve, these interfaces break because they interface on certain old models, and if the models have been updated for whatever reason, they break. Especially if you look at large MNOs, this is often a key cause of concern for their legacy systems because there's a lot of money continuously being pumped into just maintaining systems, because of all the updates that's going on and the far too many customized interface they have. It also offers operator MVNOs multiple paths to upgrade, starting at one, and then if they want to bring on board more functions under their own control, the ability to work with a solution provider who's got a broad portfolio gives you many options. All right, one last slide, which I think, so what's the key takeaway? So my view is that there needs to be unlocking of what the business users can do independently, especially within the MVNO. These are they're quite small teams, and there is a lot more that can be done to give them greater freedom. We are talking about things like a low-code, no-code platform that helps them to build and innovate and experiment and fail, or rather fail fast, right? This also provides a door to automation, the ability to actually have the business users do a lot more experimentation without actually having to have a shadow IT supporting them, opens the door to far smoother automation. So I believe that has to be a priority. The second one, as I said, Gen AI, but again, Gen AI as a framework, not as a software tool. And oftentimes we, especially if you look at the past AI wave, analytics waves, there's a lot of people trying to just buy it as a product that you can put it in a box and then deploy the box to a particular function. And I think Gen AI has to be treated as something that is far more pervasive and more like a framework that underpins the entire platform, enables it rather than a tool that you selectively apply. Again, that's part of the core model that you build. And it has to go into the development practice as it is. And finally, convergent platforms. There is a tendency, at least when you look at MNOs, to have different platforms for different purposes. And the reasoning at that time, at least, was that you had different teams managing different sort of, different sort of business segments, and you had to give them complete authority. So therefore, you had different platforms for. But from a technology standpoint, it actually makes a lot of sense to have convergence, be it B2B, B2C, different types of segmentation, driving off a single platform. And modern technology platform can actually give you the capability to divide it so that there is at least some sort of a virtual separation between different types of businesses. And at the same time, divergent business models to be able to support business models that you haven't planned for. Most of the business models today are parameterized in some way or the other. And I believe we are moving into a time where the parameters can be undefined and can still have a business model around it. And that's a sort of future that I think MVNOs should be prepared for. All right, with that, I think that's my last slide. Yeah, I don't know. I think I took a bit longer than I thought. Eva, do we have time for questions?
That's absolutely fine, John. Thank you so much. Great presentation. We have a few questions, so we'll try to quickly run through about 3 of them. We have a statement from Mark. He says that he sees customers that want more than one network. So use case, give me your location and I'll give you the best network for you with same plan. So Mark's saying cloud, open APIs, telco in a box, SaaS solutions have opened up this option for MVNOs. Is there anything, John, that you would like to add on top of that statement?
It is becoming increasingly common idea to talk about, having the option to have multiple networks. In fact, that's fundamentally the core strategy for MVNAs, which is actually having a moment in the sun right now. But fundamentally, from a software standpoint, this is completely managed, irrespective of whether we are talking about merging multiple networks or not, right? At the experience layer, at least at the BSS layer, it is completely agnostic. The technology is agnostic. It does not, because most of the aggregation actually happens far beneath it. But at the technology layer, it's about what sort of friction points do you have to help the customer, select between different types of options. Sometimes it's also about how do you let the customer know that because he happens to have your service, he actually has covered a not spot by skipping over to something that actually has coverage in that region. So there is a lot of thought being spent on how to make that surface of the screen more innovative, both to draw in the customer and to also inform him subtly that he is actually signed up to something really good that you probably wouldn't get anywhere in the market. By the way, just on that point, we have a lot of data that proves that the more engaged the customer is with an operator's interface, be it an app or a web, the more likely he will remain loyal for a longer period of time. So all of this adds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully I answered that question, Ewan. Yeah.
And very important for retention indeed. There's a question for Adrian. Is there a current trend or preference for prepaid and postpaid products for MVNOs in the US? Sorry, John, did you hear me?
Okay? Yeah. Sorry. You said Adrian, so I thought there was someone else. All right. From my perspective, right now, there is a lot more experimentation happening in prepaid. There is a lot more interest in exploring how that can be taken forward. Remember this. This is a postpaid heavy market, and there has been a ton of experimentation in prepaid in some of the other markets. If you go back a few years, especially MNOs used to consider prepaid as a bad thing. Especially developed market MNOs used to consider prepaid as a bad option, something that would reduce your ARPU and so on. But what is happening is that because of the saturation levels we have, prepaid actually opens up a lot more possibility to increase ARPU on a secondary line sort of thing. So there tends to be, at least my view is that there tends to be a lot of interest, especially if you look at some of the, I was in Asia last week for a session, and there was a lot of interest in what are some of the unique innovations coming out of these markets as well, and how that can be applied in a economical ways in the West. So that's my take.
Thank you so much. So I'm being told we're running out of time. We have a couple of more questions. So John, if you're happy to go to the Q&A box and answer directly, that would be super. Thank you so much. We'll have to move to the next session. Thank you. Okay. Up next, we have Liz Parry, CEO of Lifecycle Software. Liz will share insights on the rise of MVNOs in the US and the future of connectivity. If you have any questions for Liz, please pop them in the Q&A box. Liz, a warm welcome and over to you.
Thank you, Eva. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Liz Parry. I'm CEO of Lifecycle Software. Lifecycle are providers of solutions to MVNOs, and I'm honoured to be speaking here today. Our topic is the rise of MVNOs and the future of connectivity. We're going to attempt to address the transformative opportunities in the telecom landscape. Whether you're an industry veteran or exploring MVNOs for the first time, we're going to offer some insights and hopefully some inspiration. So we're going to move on to the agenda. We've got quite a lot to cover today. I'll try and keep it focused and relevant, and I'll be moving through the slides quite quickly. So first of all, we're going to look at the rise of MVNOs and their impact on the future of connectivity in the industry and how that's relevant right now, particularly for the USA. I'm hoping to share some use cases and insights from successful MVNOs like FC Barcelona and Revolut. So we'll look at some real world examples of how they're leveraging innovative strategies to stand out and grow. We're going to look at how data can be used as your GPS. Data is pivotal in guiding MVNO operations and helping businesses personalise offerings and seize revenue opportunities. And finally, we'll talk about the Launchpad for MVNOs, the modern tools and platforms that simplify the launch process and enable agility, scalability, and customer centricity. Okay, next we'll start by exploring why now is the prime moment for MVNOs in the United States. I'm sure many of you know that the industry is undergoing a significant transformation, with both challenges and opportunities paving the way for growth. According to Juniper Research, the US MVNO market is expected to grow from 18.7 billion in 2024 to 26.3 billion by 2029. That growth rate underscores the immense potential in this space. But let's have a look at what's driving this rapid evolution. The US telecom market stands out globally for its high ARPU, the average revenue per user. This makes it one of the most attractive markets for MVNOs. Customers in the US are accustomed to premium services. They're willing to pay for better connectivity, personalized plans, and added value, which creates opportunities for MVNOs to carve out a niche by delivering tailored and high-quality offerings. There's an abundance of mid to large-scale enterprises, and this is another unique characteristic of the US market. These organisations represent untapped potential, whether it's through offering corporate connectivity, employee-focused telecom plans, or B2B data services. The US regulatory environment has been relatively favourable over the years, as favourable as they get, promoting competition and encouraging innovation. Policies such as spectrum sharing and the push for more transparent wholesale agreements are lowering barriers for new entrants. This creates a fertile environment for the traditional MVNO, but also the neo-telecom players that are emerging right now. It's a diverse and open market. Unlike some markets dominated by just a few players, the US has a diverse telecom landscape welcoming innovation. The consumer base is diverse, varying needs from affordable plans for budget-conscious users to data-heavy options for the tech-savvy individuals and enterprises. And this means that MVNOs can explore creative propositions to serve those market segments effectively. The convergence of these factors, the high ARPU, a vibrant enterprise ecosystem, supportive regulation and a diverse market, mean that 2025 will be the perfect time to capitalise on the MVNO opportunity. And so for those ready to innovate and adapt, this is a chance to create lasting impact and drive profitability. So with that context in mind, let's move on to the next section where we'll explore what it takes to launch a successful MVNO and the types of brands best positioned to thrive in this space. We'll move to the next slide. Thank you. So one of the most frequently asked questions in the telecoms industry is, can anyone launch an MVNO? On the surface, it might seem like the answer is yes, but the reality is much more nuanced. The MVNO model lowers the barriers to entry compared to traditional mobile network operators. It enables brands to enter a telecom space without the need to own that physical network infrastructure. Success depends on more than just having access to the network. It requires a clear strategy, the right resources, and a strong market presence. So the typical characteristics of successful MVNOs, they frequently have an existing customer base because brands with an established and loyal customer base have a significant advantage. So a retailer like Walmart are able to leverage their retail footprint and customer trust to offer MVNO services. Walmart Family Mobile is the prime example of how to use a brand's reach to provide affordable and convenient telecom options. Brands like utility providers, insurance businesses, or financial institutions can bundle MVNO services with their core offerings, creating a seamless experience for their customers. It reduces marketing costs, but it also increases the likelihood of customer retention. But marketing strategies must be affordable. It can be one of the most significant expenses for any telecom business. Established brands entering the MVNO space benefit from cost-effective marketing strategies. They're able to leverage their existing channels, such as email and newsletters, apps, in-store promotions, and they have a receptive and listening audience. For example, Superdrug, who are a UK-based health and beauty retailer, integrated MVNO services directly into their loyalty programme. This approach reduced customer acquisition costs for them and strengthened their relationship with their customers. Successful MVNOs will have a clear value proposition and they will create new revenue streams. They differentiate by offering services aligned with their brand identity and catering to their audience's unique needs. This could mean providing highly affordable plans for budget-conscious customers, offering premium plans for businesses or data-heavy users, and combining the telecom services with loyalty programs such as seen with Walmart, Family Mobile and Superdrug. In today's modular and API-driven digital ecosystem, launching an MVNO is more accessible than ever. Platforms enable businesses to build telecom services without the need for deep technical expertise. They provide the tools for billing and customer management, plan customization and provisioning, analytics, and to optimize services and customer experiences. This democratization means MVNOs are no longer limited to tech-savvy startups or telecoms veterans. Any organisation, any brand with the right vision and resources can potentially succeed. However, the MVNO space is really crowded. Standing out requires a clear and compelling value proposition. Don't neglect operational expertise. While these technical barriers are lower, running an MVNO requires strong operational capabilities, particularly in customer services and technical support. And finally, it must be sustainable. Many MVNOs struggle to maintain profitability. There are thin margins and intense competition. So being able to scale and manage your cost base are crucial to long-term success. In the next section, in the next slide, we're going to dive deeper into how MVNOs adapt to market conditions and the strategies they're using to thrive. The industry is constantly evolving. I mean, that's what makes it exciting. For MVNOs, this presents a unique challenge. How do you stay relevant and competitive in an ever-shifting market? Adaptability isn't an option, it's fundamental if you're going to survive and be successful. Very recently, it was announced that FC Barcelona had launched an MVNO. They're renowned for their rich history, a global fan base, and they've embraced technological advancements to enhance their fan experiences. In collaboration with Mass Orange, the club is equipping its stadium with a cutting-edge 5G standalone network. It aims to provide seamless connectivity, allowing spectators to access digital services and stream live content uninterrupted. This not only improves operational efficiencies, but it positions the stadium as one of the most connected venues in the world. There will be enhanced fan engagement as the 5G network enables fans to share experiences real time, and they'll be able to access exclusive digital content during matches. There are operational efficiencies through facilitation of better coordination and management within the stadium during events. And by adopting advanced technologies, it reinforces FC Barcelona's commitment to be at the cutting edge of innovation. Let's look at Red Bull Mobile. They aligned telecoms with lifestyle. They extended their brand into the mobile telecommunications sector and launched in multiple countries, aiming to deepen engagement with their core audience, young, active consumers interested in sports and entertainment. They offer standard mobile services alongside digital content, including extreme sports, music, games, and they receive perks like tickets to Red Bull events and branded merchandise. So, what are the key takeaways? The MVNO complements Red Bull's lifestyle branding. It provides a seamless extension of its media contents and events. They can offer unique digital content to differentiate and deliver on targeted audience engagement. And finally, let's go back to the US. Comcast's Xfinity Mobile entered the US wireless market by leveraging not only its extensive Wi-Fi network, but also its existing customer base. They offer competitive mobile plans utilising both the cellular network and Comcast's Wi-Fi hotspots to provide seamless coverage. This strategy has allowed them to offload data traffic onto Wi-Fi, reduce operational costs, and offer affordable plans exclusively to their customers. By offering mobile services to existing Comcast customers, they can encourage bundle subscriptions and increase customer retention. So, moving on to a UK-based MVNO. So, a success story in the UK. In 2017, Smarty Mobile launched as a sub-brand on the 3UK network. They entered the market with a mission to offer simple, honest, and flexible mobile plans. By addressing common consumer frustrations and introducing innovative features, they've distinguished themselves in a very competitive landscape. They introduced a pioneering data discount model at launch, refunding customers for unused data at the end of each month. And this approach ensured users only pay for what they consume, promoting transparency and cost effectiveness. They provide rolling 30-day contracts, no credit checks, flexibility, and accessibility. They want to appeal to savvy consumers who are seeking commitment-free options. And it's an all-inclusive deal. All Smarty plans include unlimited UK calls and texts, offering straightforward and predictable billing. Unusually, at the time they launched, they took the decision to offer customer support exclusively through online channels like live chat and community forums. This led them to reduce operational costs, which they passed on to the customers. In collaboration with Lifecycle, Smarty launched their SIM-only network in just a few months, demonstrating agility and effective partnership. And by 2023, they had surpassed 1 million customers, which was a 37% growth year on year. This success reflects the resonant value propositions of simplicity and transparency with a strong market presence, and is a good example of a successful MVNO model. And we've got a few more use cases on the next slide, starting with a little bit more detail on Superdrug Mobile. I mentioned earlier that Superdrug are our leading health and beauty retailer in the UK. They decided to integrate with their loyalty program to their health and beauty card, and that loyalty program had over 12 million members. That exclusivity strengthened their customer loyalty and encouraged new sign-ups to the loyalty program and to their mobile offering. By providing competitive pricing and rewards, they were able to offer the added benefit of double points on retail purchases for subscribers. And finally, by integrating mobile services with their retail operations, they were able to enhance the customer experience, providing convenience and reinforcing brand loyalty. OnOff is a telecommunications company offering a unique service, allowing users to have multiple phone numbers on a single device without the need for additional SIM cards. Users can purchase and manage multiple virtual numbers through their app. This can allow separation between professional and personal communications or privacy in the type of interactions that their users will have. They can provide numbers across multiple countries, enabling users to have local numbers internationally, which is beneficial for businesses and individuals. And by analysing user interactions and preferences, OnOff can offer tailored services and numbers aligning with individual needs. They've been able to address specific customer requirements for flexibility and privacy, setting themselves apart from the rest. And finally, let's look at Revolut, a prominent financial technology company who expanded its service offerings by integrating mobile connectivity to complement its financial services. They went eSIM only, providing customers with affordable data plans while travelling abroad, ensuring continuous access to their banking services and online connectivity without the need to mess about with physical SIM cards. By combining financial services with mobile connectivity, they were also able to offer a comprehensive solution that caters to the needs of international travellers. And by utilising the customer data, Revolut can personalise offerings, tailor data plans and financial products. And this has enabled them to provide the added value to their customers, differentiating itself by integrating services into their single platform. So moving on to the next slide, we can talk a little bit more about data and how Revolut have used the data. In the modern telecom industry, data isn't just an asset, it's a guiding force. I spoke about this recently in a podcast. Successful MVNOs use data as their GPS to navigate the complexity of the market, understand the customer needs and identify new opportunities. By leveraging real-time and historical data, MVNOs can create personalised and extraordinary experiences for their customers. They can analyse usage, preferences, pain points, and design plans and services that resonate with their individual users. They can curate data bundles, tailored promotions, and this personalisation leads to higher satisfaction and retention. And data insights can predict potential issues such as network congestion or billing errors, enabling proactive resolutions, enhancing customer trust. Data helps MVNOs generate additional revenue. Data segmentation identifies underserved markets, such as gamers, eco-conscious users, or seniors, allowing MVNOs to create specific value propositions. Real-time analytics enable them to offer location-based discounts, seasonal promotions, or usage-specific plans to drive incremental revenue. And by looking at customer profiles, MVNOs can recommend complementary services, such as additional data packs. Agility is key. Data enables MVNOs to pivot quickly and adapt to the changing market conditions. By monitoring network performance, you can ensure optimal service quality and responsiveness to user demand. Predictive analytics identify shifts in consumer behaviour, such as increased demand for 5G, and they can guide the development of new features and services, keeping you ahead of the competition. You will have a significant edge over your competitors if you embrace data-driven strategies and don't forget about it. Data helps optimize resource allocation. It ensures cost effectiveness across the operations. You can target campaigns, you can personalize interactions and foster those deeper connections with your customers. And it will guide you through market expansion, helping you identify new regions or demographics. Data is a strategic asset. It's the compass that guides MVNOs through the complexities of today's telecom market to become successful. By harnessing the power of data, MVNOs can create extraordinary customer experiences, seize revenue opportunities, and respond to the market changes with agility. In short, data isn't a tool, it's the GPS that leads to sustained growth and success. And finally, we're going to talk about the telecom wholesale value chain. This is changing. It's changing to be more flexible, more modular, and cost-effective, and multi-tenancy has a lot to do with it. Cloud-native multi-tenant platforms are ideal for new MVNOs. Nexus is Lifecycle's MVNE platform that powers connectivity for millions of people. You can leave the technicalities and focus on your brand growth. Launching an MVNO shouldn't be a daunting task, thanks to the advancements in technology and support systems. And today, cloud-based multi-tenant platforms provide the ideal launchpad for MVNOs, enabling them to enter the market quickly, scale efficiently, and focus on their core strengths. Cloud-based platforms transform how MVNOs operate by eliminating the need for costly physical infrastructure. It significantly reduces the upfront investment and operational costs and enables MVNOs to allocate resources to the customer acquisition and innovation. Cloud platforms can grow with the business, allowing MVNOs to expand their services without major disruptions or investment. Multi-tenanted platforms are a game changer. They enable multiple MVNOs to operate on a shared platform and share the costs while remaining and maintaining unique service offerings. By sharing resources like the billing systems and the network management tools, MVNOs can lower operational costs but still focus on delivering a differentiated experience. You can still access customization and flexibility. The offerings can still be personalized. You can meet the needs of your target market without being constrained by the limitations of a shared infrastructure. And finally, let's not forget sustainability. Shared platforms reduce redundant systems, contributing to a more environmentally friendly approach to telecoms operations. The modern MVNO launchpad is rooted in cloud-based multi-tenant infrastructure. It provides the tools and support needed for success. And by focusing on customer-centric strategies and leveraging platforms like Nexus, MVNOs are able to innovate, scale, and redefine connectivity in the market. And I think we are virtually at the end, but I think we have time maybe, or I'm hoping we've got some time for a couple of questions. Thank you for joining me today as we've explored the ever-evolving world of MVNOs. We've discussed the opportunities, the role of data as a guiding force, and how personalisation and niche targeting are shaping the future of connectivity. I'd like to invite you to connect with me and Lifecycle. You can find us on LinkedIn, where we regularly share insights and updates about our work. If you prefer, feel free to reach out to me by email for further discussions or inquiries. But if you've got some questions, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Liz. Some really good, interesting use cases. And we have a question regarding these here from our audience. Do you think the same successful models you shared can be applied in the US, or do the audience differ significantly?
The US is different to Europe. It's much, much larger. And so that leads you to more niche offerings, I suppose. So I think as long as you are focused on differentiation, the same models and certainly the same technologies can certainly be applied in the US. The audiences do differ a little bit. I think they're depending on which part of the world you're going to compare the US with. The expectations will be different, and obviously the prices that they're willing to pay will be different. But I think, the general approach, if you follow those key points that I've called out today, they can still be applied in the US and will remain relevant for any MVNO that wants to be successful.
Thank you so much. Another question, why is the ARPU much higher in the US in comparison to the rest of the world?
I think I just covered that almost in my last answer as well, but it is that generally consumers and the customers are willing to pay more for a premium service. The expectation is very high, quality is expected, and as a result, the prices that are charged, it's possible to increase them above where they are in the rest of the world.
Is your solution plug and play, Liz?
It is, yes. You can, once it's integrated into the network, it's a simple case of spinning up a new instance and configuring it with your brand and any of the business rules that you want to apply.
There's another question, whether your platform is your own solution or whether you have partners, other partner providers utilizing.
We provide all of our own software. There are some integrations with a couple of partners for things like contact center, but other than that, everything is provided by us. We're able to integrate to other partners for things like payments, and we are payment agnostic. So it's possible for us to integrate with any of those sorts of partners, but it is highly configurable. So if there is a requirement for us to integrate with a particular partner, then that is absolutely possible as well.
Perfect. Liz, we have lots of questions and we're running a little bit late. If it's possible, you can answer the questions. You can type in questions in the chat yourself, if that's possible. We're just going to move to the next session, so make sure that we make up some time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Before we move on, we have some exciting news to share and would love your feedback. So we're going to run a very quick poll, please. We're excited to announce that we're introducing a new in-person event, MVNO Nation USA, and we hope that you will be able to join us next year on 28th and 29th of May in Florida. We will deep dive into regional MVNO opportunities. If you're interested, please click I'm interested in a poll and we will send you more details. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you everyone. Now let's welcome Gilbert Ralou, Head of Consultancy and Strategic Development at Kaleido Intelligence. Gilbert will share the latest trends and insights on scaling eSIM globally. So very exciting topic within our community as well. Very looking forward to it. Gilbert, welcome and over to you.
Thank you very much, Eva. And yeah, indeed, eSIM is a hot topic right now in the market, and especially MVNOs are actually quite successful with it. Some first introduction. Let's see whether the slides are working here. To go to the next one. I joined Kaleido Intelligence about 2.5 years ago after 20 years in international telecom with a focus on roaming and IoT connectivity. My slide actually is not working, so I hope that will move on right now. Yes, there it is. Yep, that was the one. Okay, I'll keep on talking if you can help me in getting to the next slide. So I joined Kaleido Intelligence 2.5 years ago with a focus on cellular roaming and IoT connectivity. And Kaleido Research is focused on it with strategic reports, competitive assessments, as well as data forecast information. And of course, roaming right now is mostly being disrupted by travel eSIM. And Eva, I still have a problem in getting to my next slide, as you can see. Okay. Good. And also on to the next one. Yes, here we are. Good. Now we're in motion. So as mentioned, eSIM is at the moment disrupting the roaming market. What we're going to focus on today is the opportunity with eSIM, and especially the opportunity with eSIM for MVNOs. A couple of trends that we see in the market. Travel is really picking off again. When you compare to 2019, which was the record year so far in travel, in 2025, we're expecting larger numbers. And when you look at North America, that's 12% more travel. And when you translate that into roaming trips, that's about 160 million roaming trips that are addressable, let's say, from a US perspective. When you look at eSIM, there's use cases on the IoT side, and there's use cases with travel. Now, I only have around 15 minutes, and as you can see, there's lots of topics on this slide that when you want to really give a comprehensive view, you should be addressing all of them. What I'll try to do is, based on 2 recent surveys that we did, give you a bit of a high-level insight in both the IoT side as well as the travel side on what the key trends are there, and also from your MVNO perspective, what are your main opportunities there in that space. And I still have some issues in navigating. Yeah, here it is, to our first slide. So first one we'll focus on is IoT. Now, IoT, the survey we did there was containing about 1,000 enterprises in 5 main verticals. You can see the main verticals on the left side. What's most important here is, on the one hand, when asking the question, how far are you in your cellular IoT adoption, we saw really an increase compared to a similar survey that we did in 2022, from 48% to 80% adoption when looking at cellular IoT connectivity. And also important is, although it's still not the majority in deployments, eSIM is really a choice that's increasing when you look at the different deployments there. And what are the reasons? What are the factors that people are choosing eSIM? First of all, that's security, because of the full encryption that you see there. And second, there's the long-term cost reduction. And then what you need to keep in mind here is, when you have an eSIM, you can remotely change profiles. That means when you have a device in the field, and in the case of IoT, that can be like up to 10 years, you don't want to go there locally and change the SIM card. You want to do that remotely. So there's a significant cost reduction when you do it that way. It also means it's a sort of like an insurance for you, because in that lifespan, when you want to change a vendor, that's possible when using eSIM. So that's another key factor, let's say, for companies to choose, for enterprises to choose an eSIM solution. And then also important, and that'll gradually move me also to the next slide, is the fact that there are permanent roaming restrictions out there in the world. Many countries have that from a regulatory perspective. When you look at the US, it's much more commercial situation where the operators restricting it there. But when you look at IoT deployments, you might say most IoT deployments have an international focus. In fact, when you look at this survey, only 2% mentioned that they only have a domestic deployment. All the other ones have international deployments. You see that on the right side over there. Really fully global is around 16%, but the rest is really, let's say, regional also there, where you're going cross-border. Now, in the case of permanent roaming, you really need to switch your profile, because otherwise, after typically around 90 days, your service will stop. So you definitely need to switch profile prior to that. Now, what we see here in this graph on the left side is that the active eSIM profile growth in IoT is significant. And you see 2 specifications here. The dominant one right now, of course, is the M2M specification, but it has a few limitations, which we'll touch on in the next slide. And the new one is the consumer specification. And that will be something that we'll touch on more too. But first here, when you look at eSIM, does it really solve let's say, all the issues? I mean, I mentioned the flexibility and with the permanent roaming and the cost reductions, but when you see here, and this is primarily on the M2M specifications, it is perceived as very difficult to move from one provider to the other provider. It's perceived as switching between the profiles is very costly, and it's time consuming when you look at it from the M2M spec. And also, when you look at the MNOs in the market, they typically only support one eSIM profile. And this is the area where the MVNOs come in, because from the start, they've actually been very flexible in integrating and supporting, offering multiple profiles on an eSIM. That's done with multiple technologies, could be multi-IMSI on top of, let's say, the eSIM, or it could be with the different profiles there. But anyway, that flexibility is offered by these MVNOs. Now, when we're moving on to the next slide, what you'll see here is on the right side, you see the benefits that the new IoT eSIM specification will bring us. Now, just to be clear, there's still a lot of things that need to be done. It was only in 2024 right now, earlier this year, that the specification was completely ready. And only next year we'll have really a full, let's say, compliance and all on it as well. So lots of things still need to be resolved when it comes to interoperability, the scalability, and the security of this solution. But what it will bring us is an increased choice in the number of eSIM profiles. It will give a big benefit, a huge advantage in profile switching, so much faster time to market and lower cost. It's becoming much simpler to onboard new suppliers, which also means there's more incentive for MNOs to really collaborate and to offer their support. And also extremely important is the fact that you no longer need SMS. So there's much more type of devices that can be supported. And all the verticals, let's say, that have been addressed here can benefit from that. Think of, in this particular case, also tracking devices and all. Now, on the left side, you see when you look at the actual deployments for Internet of Things use cases with the enterprises, it is primarily a mix of mobile network operators and MVNOs that are being used for their solutions. And this is for that required flexibility. And I think going forward, it is in particular MVNOs that have the opportunity here to really address that flexibility that is needed from these enterprises and to really combine, let's say, the different profiles in often an international environment. And I'm just repeating again, most deployments on the IoT side are international for the simple reason that when you manufacture a product with a cellular card inside, you have no idea where it will be shipped later on in its lifespan. So flexibility crucial, and eSIM is really helping out there on the IoT side. Moving on to the next slide, what we're going to dive into a little bit more is the travel eSIM, and where IoT had some reservations, let's say, from mobile operators also in supporting it, because often IoT cases have a very low data usage. Travel eSIM is really picking up because it typically has a high usage. And we need to thank the US actually for the fact that eSIM itself, let's say, has been really creating a lot more awareness for the simple reason that your iPhone is eSIM only, and you're the first market in the world that established that. So when we move on to the next slide, and you look at let's say the travel connectivity behavior in general, we're also seeing that for international travel, that the way that people are connected is also, let's say, changing. It's still dominant to be connected on the roaming side. Let's face it, that's easiest when you're traveling. There's not much you need to do. You need to make sure you have the proper roaming plan. But at the same time, that's not always the case. So 25% of the US travelers, and as mentioned, it's around 160 million addressable market. When you look at the trips itself, the amount of roamers is a bit less because some have multiple trips, of course. 25% of them are considering a SIM-based alternative. So that might be eSIM, that can also be a physical SIM. And then there's also a group still using Wi-Fi in the hotel, which of course is not always as secure as you want it to be. And already 4% has moved to using eSIM. And that's a big step considering where we're coming from. And also when you look at the market development right now, the awareness is really growing fast. So it's a massive opportunity. The benefit with eSIM is that you can already install it, of course, at home. When we go to the next slide, you'll actually see what are now the reasons that people are looking for these SIM-based alternatives. So this is not only eSIM, this is really also with using a local SIM. What we're seeing is often, of course, in roaming, it's very unclear what the pricing will be. And from an MVNO perspective, you probably notice that, yeah, the mobile operator community is often not that clear on what the pricing will be. So that often results in bill shocks. So cost is a primary reason. What we're seeing here is that there's quite a lot of silent roamers in the market. I think in the US, it's around, from that group of travelers that I mentioned, it's around 20%, which means they're actively stopping their data roaming to be active, and they're moving into using a local SIM card. That opportunity, the fact that they're using a SIM card, an eSIM, that opportunity is the addressable market that we're seeing here. We're seeing a broadening of the market. It's not really replacement of roaming. We're seeing the fact that they're looking for a lower cost, and therefore they want to buy an eSIM, they want to buy a local SIM card. That we see as broadening the market, as a market that was first not addressable to the MNO community. Now, apart from that, they're also looking for better quality. So often the perception is also like when you have a local SIM card, there's a better quality versus roaming, and it's the convenience. This worry for getting a bill shock is something that they want to prevent, and just buying an eSIM there is just convenient, and it's a reassurance to do it that way. So again, you see that the average spend per trip is less with an eSIM, but because of the fact that this is a different group of users, we do see it really as a way to broaden the market. And earlier on, Liz had some comments on Revolut. That's, for instance, a very nice example of a company offering a travel eSIM as part of, let's say, their banking and the brand that they have. We can move to the next slide. Just summing up some of let's say the forces that are now ensuring that we have this widespread support, let's say, on travel eSIM. So first of all is the number of distribution channels. So Revolut as the bank, many travel eSIMs are there from travel agents via airlines, but also, let's say, just the dedicated apps that are offering these travel eSIM solutions. Important, and I mentioned that in the US with the iPhone, it was the first eSIM only device. Obviously, it's still very much the high-end device that we're seeing here. But in 2028, we're expecting that around 75% of all the smartphones will be able to support eSIM. So that will also be a big push, let's say, in the acceptance here. And then this is more from a global perspective. China is expected next year to also adopt the EUICC standard that the GSMA has brought to the market here. We can go to the next slide. So a growing awareness, many new distribution channels, eSIM becoming a standard in smartphones, that will really further increase the adoption. Let's say that silent roamers will all be connected as well. Let's face it, everybody is very much attached to their phones. We want to stay connected even when we're traveling. But we'll also see a bit of a shift here in the fact that the traditional roaming plans will have to adapt. So we earlier on had a question on ARPU for the US. Yes, that ARPU is higher. Actually, for most European countries, it's also higher. What you see there is from international travel, those costs, the retail offers that you see there will have to go down a little bit to also match more what's being offered on the travel eSIM side, because the travel eSIM companies are now also going to address enterprises. We've seen some recent activity there from Airalo, for instance, which is one of the bigger ones, if not the biggest travel eSIM offer. And they're really approaching enterprises with their comment of, hey, we can lower your international expenses for your travelers from within your company significantly. So when you look at it from an MVNO perspective, and when you're looking at it from a US market perspective, and you as an MVNO have a business market or your consumer market, whenever let's say your brand is also focused on consumers that are traveling regularly, then obviously eSIM is a very interesting solution to add onto your domestic MVNO solution here. This all will result in the fact then that travel eSIM as a market will account for about 28% of the total travel connectivity spending around 2028. And just to keep in mind that total number is around 30 billion in total when you look at it from a retail perspective. We can go to the next slide. Wrapping up here. So we've been looking at some IoT roaming use cases, or let's say IoT roaming in general using eSIM. But what we're seeing is that there's really a growth in IoT roaming use cases. And we've been looking at travel eSIM and the fact that this is growing so fast. So I mentioned on the retail side, there's a bit of a disruption there. On the wholesale side, this is really an area where also the operators are seeing growth potential, because they're the ones who are offering their roaming agreements to the travel eSIM MVNOs out there in the market. And whenever those roaming agreements are being used, this does increase the amount of inbound roaming. As mentioned, silent roamers were first not roaming, now they're roaming. This is incremental traffic. So for mobile networks from a wholesale perspective, this inbound traffic is incremental revenue that they're seeing. With that, and with the technology of eSIM, it really lowers the ecosystem barriers for new players entering this market. We just saw from an MVNO perspective how easy it is to get started. Also on the travel eSIM side, it's getting easier and easier, with many MVNEs really offering a full platform to become your own travel eSIM company. Building it yourself will take more time, and just from that perspective, this market has really picked up. So you should really consider what you want to do there if you want to do it yourself, because you might be quite late to the market in that case. What we're also seeing is an increased M&A activity because you can get this quick entry into the market, and we see the market really opening up from that perspective. So that's also interesting from an investor perspective. We're quite focused on it from a Caleda perspective there too. With the new distribution channels, regional data breakouts, there's a lot of differentiation opportunities, and the previous speakers have already pointed out, differentiation is where MVNOs are good at. So with that, my slides I think are done. We have a final one because it does show a QR code. Yes, it does show a QR code. And when you take the QR code, you can request a white paper, which is completely focused on travel eSIM, and it will repeat a couple of comments that I made on the total value of the market, but also on some of the reasons why people are using travel eSIM. And with that, thank you. And if there's any questions, happy to address them.
Thank you so much for a comprehensive overview. We're going to quickly jump into questions. We don't have much time. Really apologies for running late to our audience.
Yeah.
Lots of questions here. So the first question, when do you think the IoT market will fully benefit from the new eSIM specifications?
It'll take a while. As you might remember, there was one slide, let's say, where you saw the pickup in total IoT connections. And for quite a while, you'll see that MTM will still be the dominant one, because only next year there will be really let's say the alignment, because the interoperability is something that really needs to be worked on. There's lots of companies here that need to collaborate to make sure that the interoperability is all organized. So next year it's expected that will be moved on. It is a fact that, let's say, the eSIM management companies that are out there have the capability to integrate, let's say, the old standard and the new standard. So they will be able to work alongside going forward. But yeah, it'll take some time, and even up till 2028, you saw that there was still quite some use of the old M2M standard. But by that time, it will be the dominant standard, the new eSIM specification.
Thank you. Do you think that eSIM MVNOs are going to reduce revenues of operators? And will operators become more restrictive while working with MVNOs going forward?
Yeah, no, I don't think they'll reduce the revenues from mobile operators. I mean, it's a very healthy situation, which I completely compare to the regular MVNOs that are competing on a domestic market. They just fulfill the demand of a specific user group. That user group, therefore, will be connected and actively using, in this case, mostly data when you look at travel eSIM. And the same applies international. I mean, they're traveling right now. They're silent roamers. They're on Wi-Fi. They're using other ways to be connected. And in this case, they'll be using travel eSIM. It broadens the market, incremental revenue. And for most mobile operators on a wholesale level, that's really incremental revenue for them as well. The only thing is, from the retail perspective, they'll need to rationalize a little bit on what they're offering to the market. But that's just good for customer experience. And ultimately, what you see is that data demand, data usage will only grow. Just one small fact there. In 2019, the average usage was 0.5 gig, also in the US. Right now, it's 3.5 gig on an average roaming trip. That will only increase more and more. So even with rates going down, the total usage will go up, total revenue will go up, and this entire market will keep on having its value there. Hope that answers it.
Absolutely. Exciting times ahead.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm being told we should move to the next session. However, yes, Gilbert, feel free to answer the questions that we have in our Q&A chat.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. To wrap up, I would like to introduce our expert panel discussing MVNO opportunities in the US and strategies for growth in this competitive market. We've seen some questions in the Q&A chat around aggregator options, MVNEs in the US space. I'm pleased to introduce one of them. Your moderator is Alexander Tsao, Vice President of Global Sales at PWG Network Solutions. So Alexander, very warm welcome. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Eva, and great to see everyone again. Again, my name is Alex Tsao. I'm VP of Global Sales at PWG. We're the largest aggregator in the US and possibly the world, with over 138 new MVNOs signed and onboarded in the past 5 years. So why don't we just take this time and go around and introduce ourselves. So let's start with John Horowitz. Would you take a moment to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Alex. Great to see you again as well. John Horowitz. I am the founder and principal consultant for Atrium Unlimited Consulting based in the New York City area. I am in San Francisco today, as you can see with Alex. And you've been in the business quite a long time, and I help people navigate the very crazy and treacherous path of trying to become an MVNO, both here in the US and abroad. I also have a podcast called The Boon of Wireless that runs on all the podcast networks. So that's John.
Fantastic. And John, please remind me not to use a generic Zoom background next time. Next, we have John Shave. John, if you don't mind taking a moment to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Alex. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you for taking your valuable time today to hear what our input and our experience can bring and hopefully help you with your respective businesses. My background is telecom. I've been in the telecommunications business as an operator owner for over 30 years. My wireless experience actually goes back to 1998 when we were an early reseller in Illinois. I'm from Chicago, and I reside now in South Florida. And we have a new MVNO called Stack Mobile, and so we're excited about the upside of the industry, and we're excited to hopefully get to know each of you at different points in times through different events through MVNO Nation.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Alex, perhaps you can also take a minute to introduce yourself.
Of course, with pleasure. So I'm happy to see you again, and also having the opportunity to be on John's podcast when we were all in Spain. It was really a fantastic experience. So my name is Alex Arendt, and my background is Web3, and I am launching Flix Mobile in the US, which is combining telecoms and Web3, meaning also blockchain-based applications and crypto payments, digital identities, and some more functions that are coming up. So I'm very happy to talk about that today.
Fantastic. And coincidentally, we are the panel with 2 people named John and 2 people named Alex. So we are the 2 John, 2 Alex. Many thanks to the MVNO Nation team. They hosted such a terrific conference, and in my opinion, easily the most focused, relevant, and productive conference in the entire MVNO industry. So our session today is a continuation of our panel at the Valencia conference a few weeks ago. And due to popular demand, we are now on this virtual panel in order to reach a wider audience this time. So I know our time is limited, so I promise I will respect your time. Let's get to the first question. Alex, I'm going to direct this first question for you, and then our other panelists can jump in afterwards. What are some of the unique attributes of the U.S. markets that makes it so interesting for MVNOs? And I'm particularly interested in your perspective because you are coming from the European market and entering the U.S. market. I turn it over to you.
Thanks. Great question, Alex. So the US is, first, a fascinating market because of its size and sheer diversity. So you're not just dealing with one kind of customer, right? There are families looking for affordable options, young users embracing digital first lifestyles, and then you also have like underserved rural areas where connectivity is still catching up. And what's particularly exciting is how open the US is to new ideas. So people here adopt technology quickly, I believe quicker than in Europe, especially when it makes their life easier. And this creates an opportunity for mobile services like FlixMobile to evolve into something much bigger than just connectivity. Phones are becoming gateways to our digital lives, right? And they can be tools for managing your identity, handling digital currencies like USDC, a stable coin, Bitcoin, are the currencies that are quite popular right now. Or it can even evolve into services like, I don't know, ride shares, accommodations, or broadcasting tool, which you can directly pay with your cryptocurrencies from the app. So wrapping it up, the US is the perfect environment for this kind of innovation in our view, and it's a market that's really ready to embrace the future.
Appreciate your comments on John Horvitz. Would you have any comments on this?
Yeah, the MVNO business in the United States is very robust right now. Liz from Lifecycle earlier in this session talked about the global revenue, but right now in 2024, the MVNOs in the U.S. contribute about about $13.7 billion worth of revenue, and that's going to grow in 2029 to about 17 billion. And there's a reason for that, as Alex was saying, that amongst other things, the regulatory restrictions are loosening up. More and more the aggregators and the carriers are making it easier to enter the space with MVNO in a box, be a light MVNO, but there still is room for a direct, full-blown, licensed MVNO to operate and be profitable in the country. So, we talk about the Ryan Reynolds effect. Not everybody can have a great spokesman and sell their company for $1 billion. I think a lot of people that want to enter the MVNO space have to realize that there still is a time and a financial commitment, but the opportunity is there for all the reasons that Alex said: diversity, demographics, digitalization, etc.
Fantastic. John Shave, can you share with us some of your thoughts about entering the market right now?
Yeah, I think the low hanging fruit is we have a higher average ARPU than other parts of the world. In addition, there's a growing demand in the States, which is proven itself out with niche markets and niche plays that seem to be carving out very lucrative parts of the MVNO space in the US here, delivering quality and value and to their clients. So the niche services are definitely in demand. And I think also, what we're focused on is crypto cashback and crypto payments, and in Web 3.0 also. I think that's where the trends are moving. And there's so much opportunity here in the States if you can carve your niche out, and if you can pick the right partners for your connectivity, like, for example, like PWG and others to help you be successful, fast, and focused on the right things, which is growing your business. So I see this, having been in the business for over 30 years, I can tell you, the opportunity is fantastic in the United States.
Thank you. Appreciate that, John. And this segues into our next question. The U.S. market is super interesting. However, we face some of the similar challenges as MVNOs in other markets. So one of the main challenges is the commoditization of the service. So John Horowitz, I'd like to direct this question to you. How would an MVNO avoid the commoditization of service and improve its value proposition in the U.S. market?
It's a great question, and I talk and write about it all the time, called differentiation. There's more phones in use than there are people here in our country, and MVNOs are popping up left and right. The question I have is, when somebody wants to join the MVNO space and contacts our company, Atrium Consulting, what is your differentiator? Why am I going to leave one of the 3 carriers or one of the hundreds of MVNOs to join you? And a lot of them don't have the answers. Conversely, the carriers do not want me to MVNOs to cannibalize and compete with each other. And you really have to go after. I'm going to give you an example of one that is differentiating themselves in an underserved market. And I spoke about this in Spain. I have a client called New York Mobile, based in New York, but nationwide launch. And they're going to marry wireless, what we call vanity numbers. People are going to be able to choose for the first time as an MVNO, choose your own number through search engines that'll be on the website and all that other good stuff. And for example, in the New York area, the iconic area code that doesn't exist anymore for cell phones is 212 and 718 in some of the boroughs. But they've, over the last couple of years, acquired hundreds of thousands of 212 numbers, and also something called double doubles. So, for example, I don't have an H in my name, but if John Shave wanted 212 212 John, or if you're a practitioner in the health and the pain area, 212 212 pain, 212 doctor, 718 718. You can now customize this to your business, create your own brand using that number, and you can really set yourself apart. And the one thing that the carrier that we're going directly with likes us for a couple reasons. It is new; no one else has ever done this before, where you can choose your own number, and they can pick not only in the New York state and on the New York markets. We have access to over 60 million numbers nationwide. So if you're in San Francisco, like you and I are today, or Dallas or Chicago, you can also get those area codes. And if you're giving your child their first cell phone at age 10 or 12, they're not going to remember the number. So give them their birthday. For example, 212 212, 0216, which would be February 16th. And there's a lot of things they can do. And the carrier likes us because there's really going to be 2 streams of revenue to keep a sticky customer. Not only the service revenue, but the lease or purchase of that number, which is going to, increase the revenues for New York Mobile, increase the stickiness of the customers with the carrier, et cetera. And, I've been around a long time in this business, and this is one of the most unique things that I've seen in the MVNO space ever. So, so that's, how you, an example of not having a commodity product, finding a niche, finding a differentiator. And I think these folks in New York Mobile have, they've got the genie in the bottle right now, and looking forward to their launch any day now. Okay.
Fantastic. John Shave, perhaps you have some ideas on this, how to avoid your product becoming a commodity.
Yeah, I think from the B2B side, because we also provide B2B, and healthcare, differentiating, find the growth areas, virtual private care, and pay attention to where the opportunities are in developing segments. Also integrating your services with streaming and gaming, which seems to be more common in Europe, but it seems to be really a bright opportunity here. So being able to bundle your services and package your services, there's several opportunities out there and platforms that would be able to do that. So you can actually add more or services, for example, like Netflix or gaming, and it goes on and on and on. Quite a few opportunities there. So I've a couple notes I've just made here real quick. Streaming gaming, adding more value besides the connectivity piece. If you're B2B, focus on some growth markets and where the opportunities are. And also, bundling your services with some unique offerings. And, we've talked quite a bit about cryptocurrency and other interesting, as Alex had mentioned, with blockchain, which she's working at in services, it's really interesting. And, it's very, very early in the game there. So that's sort of my thoughts from a high level.
Thank you. And also, Alex, perhaps you have some thoughts you'd like to share with us on this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can really only add to that what John and John just mentioned. It's really about differentiation, and for me also from a perspective from usability. So the key is really usability, right? Having a product that doesn't overwhelm people, that is easy to use. I think that definitely helps, and also really creating something that is useful to people's everyday's lives and that is easy to use. So for example, what could be interesting right now, you have a credit card linked to Apple Pay, and then with NFC technology you just go to the grocery store and you just hold your phone on the device, and the thing is paid without you having to enter any pins, or it's like an instant thing. So that to me would also be something that would be interesting in the developing in the app. Just make it easy to use, quick and seamless.
Thank you. I have to echo my fellow panelists with all their comments, particularly with the idea that you need a reason to exist in the U.S. market, in any market for that matter. And if you can't articulate why you exist, if you only have a Me Too business model, I would suggest it's time to go back to the drawing board to find a reason to exist. Because if you don't have a reason to exist, eventually you will not. But some of the interesting insights that our panelists shared, let me see if I can summarize some of them. The idea that the service itself is your end product is probably not the right way to think of it. The service itself is important. It's table stakes. You have connectivity, voice, text, and data. But really, the way we should look at it is that it's a key or the gateway of something else that you deliver to your customer. Some way to address an unmet need, or a segment that's been underserved, or something else. Let's borrow a concept from real estate. In real estate, they say location, location, location. Well, guess what? As telecom providers in the mobile space, we have the most precious location in the world. We are literally in everyone's pockets. Think of what you can do with that prime location. Particularly, that's a trusted device. Now with John and Alex, they have Web3 enabled services, which makes that not just a prime location, but a trusted prime location on a device that the consumer trusts and that has security. Think of the services that you can deliver. So in those cases, it's not about just the connectivity. It's about everything you can enable with the connectivity, the markets that you can serve, the needs that you can serve, the unmet needs that people haven't even realized that needs to be addressed. So that's what makes this interesting. There's so much innovation happening in the U.S. market in these areas, particularly with Web3 and cryptocurrency. I think my feeling is that we're just scratching the surface at this point. And I look forward to all the things that will be coming out in the next few years. We're only constrained by our imaginations. Okay. Next question. I'm going to direct this to you, John Shave. What has been the biggest challenges for you as you enter the market in the U.S.?
Well, I think the 800-pound gorilla in the room is one of them. There's a couple. The customer acquisition cost and managing that. And when you're entering a market, you have opportunities to be efficient and the latest technology, and but also you have to be able to navigate through what it takes to get your brand established and get your client base rolling and maintain those customers. That's the first. The other elephant in the room in this case is price. Live by price, die by price. There's always going to be another provider with a lower price. So you have to be able to acknowledge that and be able to, and then ultimately solve the riddle for your own respective niches and companies. The third note I put here was related to getting your brand recognition established, right? So that's always going to be a challenge. And then the final one I'd like to bring up, which is really interesting. If you look at what the big MNOs are doing, they're big and they've got huge client bases and they don't want to cannibalize their client bases in B2B or B2C. So what do? Right? They acquire fast-growing MVNOs like Mint Mobile would be a good example. And there's several others. You could look at Boost Mobile by Dish and others. So these are challenges because when you have an innovative newcomer that's doing very well, for example, like a Mint Mobile, we have to respond to that. And now that innovative plan at that point in time is now absorbed into a much more powerful and cash-rich company. So those are real challenges because fast-growing startups, even if they're going to hit 100 million or a couple $100 million bucks, they're still growing and essentially financing their trajectory with their internal cash flow. You take $36 billion in bank with T-Mobile that is behind Mint Mobile. That's a real threat. So we have to acknowledge these, and but the opportunity is innovation, and we're just beginning in this innovation cycle in MVNO. So you just have to acknowledge these big challenges and be able to navigate around them.
Thank
Alex,
you.
Can I add? John
Please.
mentioned that Mint and also Ultra was recently purchased by T-Mobile. Now they're looking at I believe U.S. Cellular, not an MVNO, but Verizon bought the largest MVNO, TracFone, and launched their Total by Verizon brand. T-Mobile brought Metro in-house. Cricket is owned by AT&T. So when you look at all those brands that are out there that are fighting over price, it already is a race to the bottom. And to John's point and to Alex's point and what I said earlier, you have to have a value add and a reason for someone to buy from you. And it can't be price because you're not going to beat Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile in the price game. So you have to be able to cut through the clutter with your innovative differentiator that's going to, cause customers to want to change.
Yeah. I mean, just to follow up quickly, it's probably the most competitive market there is. And for a startup, it's highly cash intense, right? So you have to have a big marketing budget to get your name out there, to get yourself known. And that breaking through is quite tough. And one of the biggest challenges that we faced is really standing out in a space where so many providers are competing on price, And as both Johns and you, Alex, mentioned, if you really don't offer something different, then you risk getting completely lost in the crowd, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one last note on this Alex T is, I mean, it's a huge industry, right? You just need a fraction of the business to have a successful enterprise, right? And so that pick your niche, be really good at it, acknowledge the aggregate and macro challenges, and navigate around them.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. That's a great point. The U.S. market is so big. You don't need to have a very large piece of it to have a thriving business. And maybe you're not going head to head against MNOs, but there's still plenty of space for a scalable business even underneath that scale. Alex, let me ask the next question to you. How do you overcome some of these challenges? We all acknowledge there are some challenges, but the rewards are great. So how do you navigate and overcome some of these challenges?
Yeah, happy to answer that. So we focused on what people actually need and how to deliver that in a way that feels seamless and intuitive. Digital identities are a good example. They solve a real issue, securely proving who you are without relying on physical documents. But they have to work simply and intuitively for users to embrace them, like any other application, payments and digital collectibles, etc. Our approach has been to build features step by step, right, and improving them along the way, focusing on the usability above all else. And we've also worked closely with partners to ensure that what we're offering isn't just innovative, but practical, right? And it's about really balancing vision with execution and always keeping the user experience at the center of everything. I think take care of the customer. The customer needs to be your biggest concern.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anyone else? How would you solve for some of these challenges?
I can chime in there. I think a few notes from my playbook are, strategic partnerships. And because remember, we have to battle the customer acquisition. That's a reality because our competitors are bigger and they've got deep pockets, almost bottomless pockets in some cases when you think about it. Pick your underserved niche. It's another note that seems to be recurring with the theme that will guide you to success. You pick the best technology you can to run your business because we have an opportunity. It all depends on what your perception is. You could say, well, we have to compete against this big MNO and they've got $30 billion in unlimited cash. But again, that's okay because we can be more flexible and we can pick the latest AI technology for service and support and think in areas like that. So your strategics are key for your customer acquisition cost. Pick your underserved markets or your growth markets that make sense for you, B2B and B2C. You have an opportunity to do your due diligence and pick good technologies to run your company and your back end and how you support and take care of the client. And then this runs across many businesses, but run lean, and running lean is important. There's a book actually years ago, it shows my age, but it was called Running Lean actually. And I recommend blowing the dust off that old book. And yeah, I think it'd be helpful to you.
Excellent. All right. And I want to kind of pick up on one of the things you said, John, was picking your niche. And there's a reason why MVNOs exist in the first place, at least in the US market, is because MNOs are constrained. They have lots of resources, but what their constraint is management vision and attention. And the entire universe of possible verticals and new niche markets is simply not on the radar of most MNOs. They spend most of their time battling over the mass market, which would be about 2/3 of the US market, the postpaid market. And that's where a lot of the marketing efforts and attention's on. Well, there leaves another third of the market on the prepaid space, and that's where most MVNOs in the US live. And MVNOs get very creative identifying unmet needs and underserved communities, and that's the key. And you pick your niche, like John said, and you execute to the best of your ability, and you manage your customer acquisition costs. Those are some key success factors. Any other comments?
I think that what Alex and John said was key. I would add that you have to surround yourself with great partners. And most people coming to the MVNO space are new to wireless. They have a great vision, they have a great idea, but they don't know wireless. You need to align yourself. These people have been doing it for years, whether it's the carrier, the aggregator, the enablers, the MVNE, the SIM card providers, the international long distance folks, the customer care. They are experts in there, and you have to build a great internal team, but an even better external team to execute on your vision and on your plan. And that is very, very important for what I've seen from my experience in launching MVNOs, that, there's a lot of people out there that tell you what they can do, but if you look at past experience of what some of these great MVNOs have surrounded themselves with, that's the playbook that we try to bring to the table.
Hey,
Well,
Alex, I'd like to throw one more out there. I think it's pretty obvious, right? Let's throw a plug in for MVNO Nation. That for Justina and her team and the production team and Eva that are bringing all these wonderful people together with the mind share. That all of us can collectively learn together. It's a big pond and there's plenty of fish in it. And and we're all still small fish, and little fish stay close to the shore. Which is what I was taught growing up. And so the MVNO Nation is I think it is a way to overcome challenges, to get the mind share, be part of the event, learn from others, learn from the experience that some of us have, and others have different experiences that they bring to the table. So I think that's also another way to help you for those who are listening.
indeed. And just as a reminder, all big fish were once little fish as well, right?
Yeah, true.
So, hey, moderators, how are we doing on time? Just wanted to. I assume we have time for two more topics. And John Horvitz, let me direct this question at you. What parts of the U.S. market have you seen or expect to see significant growth? I want to have your perspective on this specifically because as a consultant, you operate across many different segments and you've seen surprising growth coming from non-telecom players. In fact, all the growth probably have been from non-telecom players coming into the mobile space. I turn that over to you.
Well, as my two esteemed panelists have said, the blockchain, the whole crypto world, which I don't profess to be an expert at, but that's going to be a very big growth area. Now, the whole IoT world, as machine to machine and AI and all that stuff starts to mature, and we're really in the beginning right now. That's going to create a lot of new opportunities. We heard about the travel sim. I think influencers. You're going to see whether entertainment or other types of influencers are going to start promoting more brands, like again, like the Ryan Reynolds effect we had. Direct selling. I think you're going to see some MVNOs that have direct selling capabilities that don't have $50 million advertising budgets or brick and mortar stores, that they're going to use, sales forces to sell products. And I have a very unique client that is doing what I think is going to benefit the MVNOs now and in the future, and that's to broaden your offer as an MVNO, being able to broaden your offers. This company I started working with about a year ago called Stixi. It's Cixi. It's pronounced Sixi. They've solved the problem both at the retail level and for e-commerce, where if you walk into a store today, the amount of space for accessories is very limited. You can walk over, your salesperson can take you over to the computer or iPad, and you can click on iPhone 16, and there's 300 to 400 accessories that are available for these specific models of phones. And the retailer can place the order for the customer, get it next day, and there's a zero inventory cost. At the end of the month, you square up on what you made versus what the cost was, but you're basically not having any inventory carrying costs. You're giving your customers more of a selection, and the analytics that they have on their platform. I can take any MVNO, any major retailer, and look at how many people came to their website, and then how many people actually bought a phone. And what this does, one, obviously increases revenue, increases profits, but the other thing is, if you're in a store situation and that, especially a corporate store that doesn't have the ability to carry everything like an independent guy would, you can sell them an accessory online, again, at a zero inventory carrying cost, and get them before they go back into the car, go home, and go on Amazon or eBay or somewhere else. So you capture that sale. And it's a pretty innovative thing that's getting a lot of traction right now. And those are the types of services that I think that are going to be prevalent for increased profitability and increased growth for the MVNOs and the major retail chains that are out there. Not the big box guys, but people like, people that have 300 or 2,000 branded carrier stores. So I think all those things are going to lead to the growth of MVNOs. traditional MVNOs, they're popping up every day. I mean, and some have some great differentiators. Some are trying to play the price war, which we talked about. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. And if anybody wants more information on this company or some of the other people that we represent out there in the MVNO space, feel free to contact me. I don't know how they do that, but JON, this is my commercial, JON@atriumunlimited.com. And we'd love to chat with you.
Fantastic. Anyone else like to jump in?
I've got some thoughts on a few things here I think might be helpful. For the growth areas, again, we got B2C and B2B folks on this call. So in the B2B area, IoT and machine-to-machine connectivity, healthcare, we talked about virtual private care. Medicaid wants people out of the hospital. Hospital gets dinged a big number if you're back in the hospital after 3 days or something like that. So keeping you out of the hospital, and what does that require? It's remote monitoring. The other areas of private 5G networks. We're diving into an application specifically around airports. So the airport would have their own private 5G network. And so those that were on the facility and the hangars on the tarmac around would have secure communication specific to security or logistics maintaining those facilities. The other B2B area is business-centric services like unified communications wrapped into the mobility suite. The B2C, there seems to be some growth opportunities in the ethnic markets in the B2C. And then the final one, which I'll hit the bell on again, is this future is Web 3.0.
Fantastic. All right. Alex, if you have any thoughts about this as well.
Well, obviously, I mean, only just adding to the valuable points that John and John already made. It's for me also what is an area of growth is being an honest operator. So, I mean, if we look at Mint, in their marketing, it's still kind of, I won't say it's shady, but it's kind of misleading in their communication. When you see, hey, you have 3 months for free or whatever. And then you have a plan that you have to pay for 12 months and the costs increase. I think that's something that these traditional practices that you've always seen in telcos for years and years and years, these have to be broken up, and we need players that play a different game, that are really serving the customer and that are transparent, honest, and really adding value to their lives. So I think that's definitely an area of growth, and we need more of these players in the US and in the world. By the way, Switzerland is not much better, or Europe in general.
Thank you,
Alex. Good points. I've got one last one that I think you might find interesting, that most people may not think about, but rural markets. So, and this articulates into there are well over 1,000 independent telecom carriers in rural areas that are independent phone companies, and they want to wrap services to be more relevant to their rural area and maintain their revenue streams. So that's one that most people have not identified that it's on our radar screen to drill into some of those markets as we start to evolve our business in our B2B area and providing services to these telcos.
Indeed. Another underserved market. There are plenty of them if we just dig deep enough. I know we're probably
and also just a last point that I wanted to add. What I think, I mean, I wasn't aware of that. I really recently found it out that there are like 26 million people living in the US without an identity, without access to financial services, without access to anything, jobs and things. So that's quite a huge number. That's 11% of the population, and that was shocking to me. Now that you were speaking about rural areas, but yeah, that's also a group I think that that we can address and that needs our help by providing, for example, digital identities. There's the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation that are working on helping these people, these underserved communities. And I find that very interesting. I find that is a very, very great area of growth.
Indeed.
And doing good.
Thank you for saying that. So that's another underserved community, the community of people without documentation or identities in the US. 26 million is just a small percentage of US market. But if you create a business focus on that. Just remember, that's about 5 times the population of Denmark, right?
Exactly.
Just for scale.
Yeah.
I know we're running short on time. Eva, can I have one more topic? Is that okay?
I'm being told we're running out of time, and there's a lot of questions from the audience. So potentially, if we address the questions from the audience instead of running the last topic, that would be great, please.
Yes. Okay. Last question, promise. John Shave, I want to direct this question at you. How developed is the US MVNO partner ecosystem? And what was your experience like as you navigated this?
The part, okay, so it's different, right? B2B and B2C, right? I believe the B2B is underserved. And it's sort of the world that I came from. And the channels that typically sell telecom services and security services and all that, there's an infrastructure out there in place. Where else in the partner ecosystem? There's established not only sales channels, and you're talking about partners, like partner networks to help you drive revenue. Is that what your question's about? Or the overall MVNO space? And because like if you talk about the MVNO space, I mean, we're pretty advanced with our billing and OSS systems to deliver services. I mean, that's advanced. We've got significant aggregators like MVNAs, like PWG, that can get you in the business quick and allow you to focus on what you need to focus on for your business. So I would say that the B2B, there's an opportunity, and with the BSS OSS systems that have evolved is an advantage, and that's just a sign of an evolving market, preparing companies for scale. And then the final one is that you can actually get access to the MNOs and do that in a secure manner that you're not going to get burned and left holding the bag if they go broke.
Thank you. Just conscious of time. Anyone else like to jump in before we go to question and answer?
All good.
All right. Eva, we'll turn it over back to you for Q&A.
Hello. Hello back. Sorry, I thought Alexander, you're going to be running the Q&A session. Let me just.
Pardon me. Okay.
Whatever works.
Okay. You're right. I will. Let me read the first question. Do you want more?
Okay, I'll leave it with you.
Question for Alex. You mentioned that blockchain extends beyond cryptocurrencies and payments. How do you see its role in identity and credential management, particularly for MVNOs and more broadly for mobile operators?
I think that identity and payments are quite they're tied to each other, and I think they are important, right? Because as our lives are increasingly getting digital, we're moving into a digital space, and we need means to prove who we are, and that we are the rightful owner of the account, for example, right? So our decentralized or digital identities, an identity that is stored on the blockchain, tamper-proof and secure, is a great means to make secure payments and to prove that you are the eligible owner of the assets that you're sending to someone, right? And also the same goes for when receiving assets that you can always verify from, whom am I? Is that a person? Is this a bot? There's a lot of spamming in the space. People receiving tokens, be it, I don't know, NFTs or currencies in their wallet that they don't want. So I think this is a development that increases the security for users and also cleans up the space from spammers. I hope I answered the question in a good way.
Of course. But John, would you have any insight on this as you are also in the blockchain and Web3 space?
Repeat the question real quick again. It was because I caught a couple of things.
Yeah. So the question is about blockchain, how that extends beyond cryptocurrency payments. How do you see this, the role of crypto?
Web3 was everything's decentralized, right? So So I think an area of that interest of mine is lending, actually, micro lending, in a Web 3.0 environment is one very specific area that I find really interesting. But that's what makes it exciting, because Web 3.0 is just beginning. And we don't even know what the exciting technologies that are around the corner with the advanced processors and innovation. So that's very much a wait and see, and an exciting curtain to be opened up as we move into 2025.
John Horowitz, do you have anything to add for this, or show next question?
Yeah, not really, not on the crypto part, but you asked about, is the ecosystem robust? Yes, but as new things come out, products, services, obviously things are going to come up. We've got aggregators, we've got enablers, we've got all the piece of the puzzle, but we don't know what's coming next with innovation and everything else. So there's going to be the vacuum that we don't know what it's going to be is going to be filled quickly. As
one last note on that, Alex T, is, cryptocurrency, right? And it means a lot of things to a lot of people. And, crypto cash back directly to digital wallet, secure crypto payments, interconnecting with charities with cryptos, employee benefits with cryptocurrency rewards. There's a whole slew of things that we're working on internally in that realm, and accepting cryptos payments is easy. But that's like the first base. But there's so many other innovations that will come out as we've got a friendly administration to cryptocurrency, everybody knows. And with that comes innovation. The pressure is going to be taken off the banks. Pressure comes off the banks. The banks can do business with the crypto different entities, and then you start to see a more blossoming opportunity horizon over the next 4 years. So we're bullish on it.
Alex, one last thing I want to add that I missed in my last reply. So the digital identities, by the way, are also a really great means for people to manage their data and secure their data. So they can basically decide, what do I want the MVNO to know about me? And do I allow them to know anything about me? And also to monetize if they decide, yes, I actually want to share the data, my usage behavior, what I do, where I shop, what I love. If you decide to share that, then you're able to monetize it, right? And the MVNO is then able to, let's say, really do very, very targeted marketing and really provide services to their customers that are very, very tailored and targeted. That's what I think is also very important to mention.
Thank you. Let's do one more question if we still have time, without going too much into politics. And this one will be, I would like to know your opinions on this, John Horowitz and John Schaaf. Do you think that the new incoming administration will change anything for the telco market in the U.S. in the coming years?
Well, I think as John Schaaf said, it's a friendly administration towards lower regulations. From what I've read, you're probably going to not have as much pushback on mergers that we've seen in the past. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if there's been any stated policies or announced policies which could, send this one way or another.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts here. I've got quite a bit of experience. I've set up a lobbying group for independent telcos and cable companies early in my life. So I have some understanding of the way this works. So a couple thoughts on this. Yeah, for sure. Lower regulation. Now, I do see an opportunity in rural broadband. You can already see, if you caught I don't know, I'm happy to share it, whoever I can get the information out, but Vice President J.D. Vance was on a interview, and it was brought to my attention, and we had a chance to go through it, and he spent quite a bit of time talking about rural broadband and ACP coming back, but it'll be a different format. To give you an example for those listeners here who may or may not follow this as closely as I do. So there was an $842 million subsidy that was going to go to Starlink for rural broadband. You can spend $1 million to power 100 homes. That's not practical. Cable companies love it because they get paid. Horrible use of money. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see with the new FCC, we have a new FCC chair coming in. You're going to see a complete change in that. I don't believe ACP is going to go away personally. It's not my business model, but we are approved in every state in Puerto Rico and Hawaii, but it's not what I focus on, but I do follow it. So you may see something interesting come back with some new flavor and color to it with that. Vance was going into like 1 million people in Ohio get some form of ACP or Lifeline support. So I think that'll be interesting. So that might be an opportunity for some of you that are focused on that space. And the cutting back of the regulations. And I think not having a FCC that is might be a little bit more open-minded to innovation and for smaller providers to bring value that makes sense. So just a few of my thoughts on that.
Fantastic. Any other thoughts about that? If not, Eva, do we have time for one more question, or let me know how we're doing on time?
Maybe one more question. How about the question around who is going to build the next Mint Mobile in the US?
All of us.
Yeah, you would think.
I think there's a couple of them on the call.
I think my two counterparts here with it doing, but it's not going to who's going to build it. It's going to be who's going to represent it, who's going to be their spokesperson, their talking heads. I said earlier about influencers are going to become a big part of what's going to be happening soon. And there's a lot of big names out there that haven't thrown their hats in yet. Entertainers, athletes that if somebody has the money to pay Major League Baseball type salaries to an entertainer or an influencer, you'll probably have another Mint Mobile. But again, it can't be on price. It's got to be something.
Ava, it's going to be different. It's going to look different. I think that you're going to see. I mean, think about the utility of data. That's what this is, right? And we're punching through the utility of data to innovation with Web 3.0, with cryptocurrency, with NFTs, with now what Horowitz says makes sense. Like if you take somebody, I don't really follow Hollywood, but if you use the example of like for example, Kardashian or one of these big influencers, Logan Paul, when we start seeing innovation with gaming, NFTs, and creative evolution that people pay for, how are they going to get it? They're going to get it with this. And who provides this? We provide this. We provide connectivity. And if you understand it and you can keep your eyes on the road and your hands on the wheel, as Jim Morrison said, and get through this tunnel, there's a big opportunity. It's just the beginning.
Any other comments?
No, I mean, I think I don't want to create another Mint Mobile, as I said, for the reasons that I mentioned before. But definitely, I'd like to create an operator that really serves the basic human need, but also beyond that. And whether it's going to be acquired or not, that would be nice, obviously. But yeah, I think we need to innovate further. Mint was great, but there's a lot of room for improvement.
Oh, I love what you just said. So my answer to that question is the answer is no one, because there's not going to be another, because that space has already been taken. What did Oscar Wilde said? Be yourself, because everyone else is already taken. So don't try to be the next mobile. Be the next Stack Mobile. Be the next Fligs. And be great at what you do. The market is big enough to have that opportunity. Don't try to be somebody else. That space has already been taken. I believe that concludes our comments for today. Eva, if there are any more questions, perhaps we can take those offline. And I'm sure our panelists will be very happy to respond.
Amazing. Well, thank you very, very much. That was very insightful and very exciting panel. So lots of opportunities ahead. And we look forward to meeting you in Florida. Not that long to go.
All right.
Eva, next, you mentioned Florida is going to be your next event. Did you pick it at Miami? Is it going to be Orlando? Is it going to be Lauderdale? Where'd you end up? Have you made a decision yet?
We're in the final stage of confirming that, so we'll be in touch very soon. But somewhere sunny and very nice, the beach hopefully.
Great.
So we keep them going. We're going to be in touch soon. Nearly there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex, for this great moderation, for the great questions. Thank you, John and John, Eva, Justina, the whole MVNO team. It was really great.
Yes.
Great.
Likewise. Well said. Well said. Good job, everyone. It's fun. Hope it was helpful. Hope it was helpful to our listeners.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I have a hunch it was.
it was
We'll
my pleasure.
We'll find out shortly. We'll find out. The phone's already buzzing. So. Okay.
All right, everybody. Nice.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for
Good.
including us.
Have a great day.
Bye, Eva.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cool.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of today's session. We will send you the event recording early next week, and we hope to see you in person in Florida. Thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye for now.
Bye-bye. Take care.